Summer can be a bit of a slog. For us, it's often for some reason a rather busy time, and I'm sure we're not alone.
Well, you can beat the summertime sadness and the August angst and enhance your everyday with our excellent sponsor, Via Hemp. This is a company that crafts award-winning premium THC and THC-free gummies.
Each of these gummies is especially designed to cultivate a specific mood. Whether you're looking to get relaxed, get quality sleep, get creative, or just to get focused. If you're 21 or older, you can experience it for yourself and get 15% off your first order with our exclusive code MSheet at viahemp.com. That's VIIAHEMP.com.
I personally enjoyed their grapefruit flow state gummies. This CBG and CBD powerhouse really helped me tap into my productivity. Like, we have had an extremely busy summer, and I feel flow state got me over the finish line a few times when I was editing multiple episodes a day, digging through documents, and knocking out a bunch of interviews.
Via Hemp does not require a medical card, and it ships legally to all 50 states. It's also affordable, and even more so for Murder Sheet listeners who get a special deal.
If you're 21 and older, head to viahemp.com and use code MSheet to receive 15% off. That's VIIAHEMP.com and use code MSheet at checkout. After you purchase, they ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Enhance your everyday with Via.
Okay, it's time to commit. 2024 is the year for prioritizing yourself. Begin your new smile journey with Byte, and you could start seeing results in just 2 to 3 weeks. Just order your at-home impression kit today for only $14.95 at Byte.com. Byte Clear aligners are doctor-directed and delivered to your door. Treatment costs thousands less than braces. Plus, they offer financing options, accept eligible insurance, and you can pay with your HSA FSA. Get 80% off your impression kit when you use code WONDERY at Byte.com. That's BYTE.com. Start your confidence journey today with Byte.
What makes a life a good one? Is it the adventure you have? Or the friends you find along the way? Maybe it's pursuing your passion while striving to protect, defend, and save what you believe in every single day. So what makes a life a good one? In the Coast Guard, we think it's all of the above and more. But you'll have to find out for yourself. Visit gocoastguard.com to learn more.
Content warning, this episode contains discussion of murder. So Anya, I think, just literally hit publish on the episode we recorded about the oral arguments that took place today at the Indiana Supreme Court. And just as she did that, we got an email from the Supreme Court indicating that they had reached their decision. This was much, 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 much quicker than anyone expected.
Living the dream here.
So we will read the order and discuss it, but briefly, the decision is that Rosie and Baldwin are back on the case, and Judge Gold remains on the case as well. So we'll give you some of our first reactions to all of this and talk about it in just a moment.
My name is Anya Kane. I'm a journalist.
And I'm Kevin Greenlee. I'm an attorney.
And this is The Murder Sheet.
We're a true crime podcast focused on original reporting, interviews, and deep dives into murder cases. We're The Murder Sheet.
And this is The Delphi Murders. Richard Allen goes to the Indiana Supreme Court. The decision.
So why don't I start off by just reading this? It's very, very brief.
Yeah, do it.
Published order. The relator, Richard Allen, seeks relief from this court under the rules of procedure for original actions. Relator has requested a permanent writ of mandamus asking this court to 1. Order the trial court to reinstate his former trial counsel, attorneys Andrew Baldwin and Brad Rosie, as his court-appointed counsel. 2. Order the trial court to commence Relator's trial within 70 days from the issuance of this writ. And 3. Remove the special judge from Relator's case and appoint a new special judge. Having considered the written submissions and having heard the arguments of counsel, a majority of the court votes to grant the petition for writ as to Relator's request to reinstate attorneys Baldwin and Rosie as his court-appointed counsel. The court unanimously denies all other relief sought. The court will promptly issue a written opinion explaining its reasons. The pendency of this matter in this court does not stay the proceedings in the trial court. And signed by Justice Loretta Rush, the Chief Justice of the Indiana Supreme Court. So first of all, before we even discuss the order, it's very unusual for an order to come out this quickly in a case of this nature. It shows...
Same-day delivery. This was same-day delivery.
It shows how incredibly seriously they take this. There was a lot of talk this morning from the justices about not wanting there to be delays, wanting to get things on track, getting things moving.
But like everybody says that, but they actually did it.
Yeah, obviously that was not empty rhetoric.
No!
They really meant it. It's also interesting that they note that there will be a written opinion later. The written opinion is going to make for very interesting reasons or reading. I remember in law school they said basically judges can do pretty much anything they want, but they have to explain it, and they have to explain it because there's always similar cases that come up, and so it's helpful for other justices to read written opinions and see how this was handled in the past, what the precedents are. So the written opinion is going to explain why they made this ruling. All we know now is the result. What do you think about the result?
Well, I don't want to sound flippant, but I think the Indiana Supreme Court shows chaos. You're basically forcing people to work together who don't trust each other. So I just am surprised that they're not going to separate them. They're basically saying, all right, you guys, now get along. But I don't know if that's going to work. Trust has been lost between these two parties. Just speaking as a neutral observer here, not saying who is the right or wronged party, but I'm just observing a situation where the defense has been strenuously arguing for a long time, actually. Oh, she's a prosecutor's judge. She's terrible for the defense. She's so biased against us. All this stuff. She ruled against us.
She's so biased she should be removed.
Yes, and the judge. Well, you go ahead.
The judge literally did remove the defense because she says they're negligent. They don't know what they're doing. They lie in their motions. Blah blah blah. So no matter who you think is right, no matter who you think is wrong, these sides don't like each other. They don't get along.
Yeah. It's not just not liking each other. It's like in her view, she may feel that they lied to her. They withdrew from the case. They did not mean that. Like both sides are not in a place where I feel like there's a lot of room for coming back from that. Maybe I'm wrong. So I think a lot of people behind the scenes, who just observe this case and maybe have some legal expertise, often noted like, oh man, it'd be really crazy if they brought them all back. But like, why would they do that?
Everybody we talked to, I think to a person, treated this as an either or. They would assume that either Judge Gold would go or the defense attorneys would go. But I guess, and obviously this is just speculation because we have not seen the opinion, have not read the opinion. We don't know what the reasoning is. But I would guess they ultimately concluded that whatever Judge Gold did that was wrong did not rise to the level of requiring her to be removed, and whatever Rosie and Baldwin did that may have been wrong also did not rise to the level of them being removed.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't necessarily say, well, neither side did anything to warrant removal, but we're still going to remove one of them anyway.
Because the other side doesn't like them. I see that reasoning. Most of the people we talk to behind the scenes who are like lawyers who just follow this and just know things, it's not like they said, it's not like people were saying, oh, Judge Gull so badly bungled this that they're going to, punt her into the sun. It was more like, well, they probably have to bring them back. And if they bring them back, then they probably have to remove her. But I guess they basically said, no, we don't. So I'm this is like in a way the most surprising outcome because it's the one that gets us back to the status quo, but the status quo has been blown to smithereens. There is no status quo anymore. The status quo is insanity. So, I thought that she was gone. I thought that they were going to kick her off to bring them back on, not because the justices felt that she really did anything super wrong. It was just because they needed to safeguard Alan's rights, and that would be the correct thing to do. Is this going to make us at risk for a tremendous appeal because they're going to say, oh, look, she tried to kick us off, so she didn't like us. That means she's biased against us every time she rules against them from here on out?
That's certainly possible.
I don't know.
Excuse me. It's a situation where it's hard to guess what's going to happen next. Is she going to choose to have a formal hearing to determine whether or not the two attorneys were grossly negligent and need to be removed?
Like, does she get a second shot at them now almost? Maybe it's not like, okay, everyone back to work. Maybe it's like, now I'm going to actually make a record and throw you off in a way that can't be challenged. I don't know, because there's been points made that you can't do that, but by the defense side of things, you can't do that even when, that they're like, that's not necessarily clear that would work.
I'd wonder, would McClelland file a motion saying they should be disqualified? We've heard that in a phone conversation back in October, he indicated that he believed they should be disqualified. He never filed a formal motion to that effect.
No.
Will he do so now?
Will there be a hearing? Are they brought back public defenders, I assume, if everything is just reinstated?
You said reinstated.
Okay, well, that's confusing. But
another question.
My guess is they're public defenders again.
is they're public defenders again. The attorney, Lehman, indicated that he felt if they came back pro bono, it would basically be some sort of punishment. Another question I have, it revolves around the speedy trial motion. They originally, as we all know, they requested for the Supreme Court to order the trial begin in 70 days. And the arguments on the other side was that's really something you need to file in a trial court. So will Baldwin and Rosie go to court first thing tomorrow morning and file a speedy trial motion?
No.
Or is that just going to be...
I'm calling it no. Unless they're pro bono, which I don't think they are, because why wouldn't it say that? I don't think they're going to... I think the speedy trial thing was just... I mean, that was probably the weakest element of that writ of mandamus, honestly. It was just... It just seemed like a perfunctory thing of like, and this is all important because we need to do it fast. Because look, we thought about doing it fast earlier. And that means that was a part of... We're going to get... As Lehman's favorite phrase was, we're going to get Nick McClelland on the back foot. Okay. That's like, I don't think they really care about that. I'm not saying they want to drag this out forever. I think this is probably the quickest. I think this path that they've chosen is probably the fastest, like, outcome, potentially. But I still don't think, 70 days, they're just coming back into it. Maybe there was stuff they didn't finish up. I don't know. That just seems a little bit unrealistic.
Well, I just wanted to stress that even though the Supreme Court didn't grant that relief,
they can still do it.
Yeah. Rosie and Baldwin can still file such a motion. As you say, they haven't been working on the case. They were ordered to stop working on the case. Was it October 12th?
Yeah.
So that's over.
I'm not even criticizing them if they don't want to do it in 70 days. That just seems unrealistic. But I think that aspect of it was somewhat insincere and just maybe just a talking point. I didn't really see that. I just think they needed to show why it was so important to bring it to the Supreme Court.
There's also whether there's a speedy trial or not. There's a lot of outstanding motions that Baldwin and Rosie filed that we're still waiting to be
I imagine
ruled upon.
all of that will come back online, because before it was like, oh, he's not an attorney anymore, so boot, it's knocked out of my case, and there was issues with that with the other writ of mandamus.
So the things that pop up, obviously, we're going to need some sort of Frank's hearing. We're going to need some sort of hearing on. They filed, I believe, all the way back in June of last year, they filed a motion in limine trying to limit the admissibility of ballistics evidence.
That's correct.
Yes.
And I mean, with the Frank's hearing, it's not clear if there's going to be a Frank's hearing. There's going to be, it sounds like that would be up to her to decide that. If there's even a Frank's hearing, she
hasn't made a ruling on this. She indicated there's a lot of supporting documents and recordings she hadn't read or listened to, and presumably she hasn't been reading it or pursuing that in the last few months, because as far as she was concerned, the Frank's motion was off the table because the attorneys were no longer on the case.
And oh my gosh,
back on the case.
Who are we forgetting? Scrimmage and Librato. What are they going to do? They're gone. They're the ones who are gone. Is that right? They're like the characters in the first Star Trek movie who just get introduced and then killed awfully in a transporter accident.
If you're a new parent, a bad day means you either ran out of coffee, diapers, patience, or all of the above. Stocking up on cold brew and deep breaths are all you. Hello Bello's got your baby's butt covered. Because Hello Bello believes all families deserve premium, affordable baby products. With their ultra-convenient diaper bundle subscription service that includes 7 packs of diapers and 4 packs of plant-based wipes, you'll never run out of supplies. Better yet, they're delivered to your door. Set, change, and cancel your delivery schedule whenever you want. If you're a parent, your to-do list is longer than all your baby's wake windows combined. Let Hello Bello take care of diaper runs until you're done potty training. It was named Best Diaper Subscription by New York Magazine and winner of the 2022 Good Housekeeping Parenting Award for a reason. Go to hellobello.com/Wondery to get 30% off your first customized bundle and a full-size freebie product of your choice. That's hellobello.com/Wondery to start bundling with 30% off your first order. Don't forget, that's hellobello.com/Wondery.
I feel it's unlikely that Carroll County would want to pay for 4 defense attorneys.
Oh, really? Jesus Christ. We've heard that it's unusual that he has 2 because it's not a death penalty case.
There's always, I remember when Scrimmage and Librato came onto the case, there was a question, are they going to adopt some of the motions and stuff made by the previous attorneys, or are they just going to discard it? I would not be surprised if Baldwin and Rosie adopted the recent motion for moving Richard Allen to somewhere closer.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure that they share those concerns and feel that Richard Allen needs to be transported.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. And also it makes their side look good because it's like, look, these other adult attorneys agreed that, people have Odinist tattoos.
Well, there were some implications that some of the stuff in the original motion that Brad Rosie wrote all the way back in April of last year was not entirely true. And now we have Scrimmage and Librato making not identical claims, but very similar claims, basically that Richard Allen is not being treated as well as he should in prison. And I think what we're most concerned about is Richard Allen's abilities to meaningfully confer with his counsel in prison are less than a person's rights to confer with clients and attorneys if they were in jail.
Yeah, I think it's less about, I think Rosie and Baldwin focused more on is he being treated nice in Westville, and these other guys treated it more like, is he able to defend himself? Is this conducive to him defending himself? And I think that ended up that being more of the thrust of their arguments. So I think that would make sense for them to adopt that. But I guess they have to stop working now. So I wonder what the heck's going to happen next. I guess for me, the fact that they ruled on this so quickly I mean, hours. I mean, I literally just hit publish on the other episode we did. Like, that means to me that this was very much, very important, very, very urgent in the minds of these justices that we need to come down on this fast.
Yes. Justice Rush, in particular, during the oral arguments, kept on saying, we need to act quickly. We need to get things moving. And if they took a week or a month or however long to wait for an opinion to be formally prepared, that would just delay everything further. And ultimately, whether you're Richard Allen, whether you're a family member of one of the victims, delaying things isn't helpful.
No, it's really not. I wonder what this means for the timeline of the case. Is it going to be in October? Are they going to surprise me and actually go for something like the 70 days? It's possible. Again, I've been dismissive of that, but anything's possible. They may listen. I mean, with Rosie and Baldwin, their reputations and I imagine, just personal feelings have taken a battering in this whole situation. They basically, it kind of comes down to like these guys, when there's a professional debate about are these guys totally negligent or just did they, mess it up, but they shouldn't be fired. That's not what I would want to be in for months and months. I would want to, do a good job, and then move on with my life.
They've had months of people saying, "Oh, are they incompetent? Are they bad at their job?"
That's not a fun position.
And we've seen Andy Baldwin in court. You and I watched him in the Randy Small murder trial. We've heard things about Brad Rosie. These are professionals who care deeply about their clients. And I'm sure they care very deeply about Richard Allen.
Yeah, we can disagree or agree about strategy, but still, that could be true.
But I think things take on an added meaning when it's not just your client's interest at stake, but in some extent, it's your own.
Yeah.
Because they have been really battered. And now this trial offers them a chance not only to exonerate a client they believe in, but to also vindicate themselves and their reputation.
Because, that would be rough coming back and then losing, because then it's like, why did you, and then it almost like you could be like, well, maybe if someone else had taken it, they would have won. And you fought so hard to lose.
Well, also, I think you want to prove that all these people who said you were incompetent or negligent, you want to prove them wrong.
Yeah, you want to prove that. So there's like a personal angle there, I imagine. Not that we know that, but it's just human nature. And this, I think, looks like a vindication for them, partially, but not a complete one, because the justices are basically, the way I'm reading the outcome, although we'll have more clarity when there's opinions that we can read, are not saying, yeah, that big mean judge was mean to you fellas and you guys are good boys and here's an apple and go along your way. They're saying, no, you all have to get back in the car together and take this road trip together. And to me, that speaks to like a mixed bag for both parties. And I don't know. Ultimately, I think it's a worse outcome for Gull because it was her move that removed them. So it's like they're undoing her action. But at the same time, they don't seem to accept the defense's arguments that she crossed the line to a degree that she should not be in charge anymore.
Just that she crossed the line enough that her decision that's basically cost us all 3 months of delay needs to be undone.
Right. It's rolling back a decision. It's not rolling back her entire leadership in this case. So that's got to be a bittersweet thing for the defense side, because I imagine what they're hoping for, or what they were hoping for, is Rosie and Baldwin back on, but then definitely Judge Gull out.
And another thing that Rosie and Baldwin are likely going to need to respond to pretty quickly, perhaps the top item on their agenda, is something we mentioned at the end of today's earlier episode, namely that there's new charges being filed, or rather, the state wants to amend the charges. Are Rosie and Baldwin okay with that? Are they going to try to object? Are they going to try to fight it? We'll see.
In McClellan's filing, he's like, we're 9 months out to trial, so that should be enough time. But if they want to supercharge ahead, I don't know. That might delay them.
If they say we want to have a speedy trial, you knew we wanted to have a speedy trial. Why did you wait until today? I believe in the motion, McClelland says, we believe these charges are proper based on the information that was in the PCA. Of course, the PCA was written over a year ago.
Right. Interesting stuff.
So there's interesting arguments ahead there.
But are they, again, like, I guess my concern is if a big concern of the court is that we don't want an appeal that's like, you know, basically what Lehman said renders the first trial a practice trial. If they don't want that, is there concern that we will get, I mean, is there I don't understand. I'm not a lawyer. Is there something where it's like, oh, this judge hates us, so the trial should be thrown out because she didn't like us? Maybe we can't point to anything specific. Maybe some of her rulings against us, maybe every other judge would have done that, or almost every other judge would have done that. But the vibes are bad with this judge, between us and the judge.
Well, it's certainly possible that if Judge Gohl and Rosie and Baldwin all remain on the case throughout the trial, I'm just speaking theoretically now, it's possible that through the course of the trial, as a record is being created, there will be evidence that she is in fact biased against them, which if they lose would possibly be grounds for an appeal. There's also every reason to believe that maybe that's not true, and maybe once a trial record is created, maybe it'll establish that there is no bias.
How can one look at a record and determine whether or not a judge is fairly denying one party's rulings because they think they suck, or not, like, personally, or because they just think that the filing wasn't good, or that the law doesn't support that, or the facts don't support that? How do you even parse that?
It's not easy, because if there were hard and fast, clear rules, say, oh, this light is green, that means bias. Oh, this light is red, that means everything is okay. Then you wouldn't have lawyers arguing with each other over whether or not someone is biased, and you wouldn't have to take it to the Supreme Court. Every decision a judge makes in the course of a trial, by and large, is the result of that judge's discretion. So it would take more than just a few of those discretionary decisions going against you to prove bias.
Even though I felt that I was concerned about the lack of record, concerned about the lack of hearings, and concerned about, let's have we can have a hearing or you can withdraw. I didn't find it very compelling on the defense side arguing, oh, well, she denied our motion here. I mean, judges are allowed, judges deny motions. That seemed kind of like a stretch. But looking forward, yeah, it'll be really interesting to see how you unpack that, because, I mean, I doubt there's cases. I guess there's probably cases like this, but I doubt in most situations a judge will be like, Rosie and Baldwin sent this. I'm denying those bozos. I mean, it's not going to be like that. It's going to be just like denied or accepted. And I don't. Where's the line?
I talked earlier about how at this point the trial for Baldwin and Rosie is not just about Richard Allen. It's also to some extent about their reputation, because their reputation and their professional competency has been maligned. By the same token, the trial for Judge Gohl takes on a new meaning, because there are a number of voices out there, whether it's the defense attorneys or some of their partisans online, who are largely arguing that she is really biased and that her decisions are not to be trusted. And so that would likely inspire her, one would imagine, to really take a hard look and make sure, even more so, that everything is played exactly by the book. And if she denies something, that she had a really good reason.
Yeah, I would hope that maybe everybody kind of just plays it by the book going forward. I mean, just everybody plays it by the book going forward, because we've been throwing out the book. The book's been thrown out the window. Let's pick the book, dust it off, and have the book at hand at all times going forward, because the whole thing is just...
We've lost 3 months.
We've lost 3 months. And again, I joked in our last episode, it's been like a fight at the omelet factory. Everyone has egg on their face, except for Nick McClelland right now, because it doesn't make anybody look very good when we have a, frankly, you can downplay it all you want, but really disturbing leak of graphic crime scene photos involving 2 dead children. And then that's followed up by like decisions that are made behind closed doors, and maybe they're okay or maybe they're not. Turns out they're not, according to the Indiana Supreme Court. And 3 months wasted, and now no clear indication about when anything's even going to happen. Because even if you say, well, this is good because now things will happen quickly, I don't know that, because we have additional charges now, and also they're not gonna. I mean, I just don't see the 70-day thing happening.
To some extent, Baldwin and Rosie are showmen. They like to do flashy things.
Oh yeah,
it would be flashy and get a lot of attention if they filed this speedy motion.
Well, given their history, which tends to actually put flash over strategy, in my personal opinion at times, that would make a lot of sense based on their history. Because, I mean, they've put stuff in filings that probably shouldn't have gone in filings. And that would be the sort of thing that you would do, like, to prove a point. And maybe it's not a good idea, but maybe it makes you feel better at the moment, or you think it'll look good in the media. So I guess that's not out of the question.
I don't know what they're going to do. All I can say is I think all of us who follow the case really want it to reach an endpoint, no matter what the verdict is.
I don't think everybody does. I think some people want it to go on forever.
Most of us want
most normal people want some sort of,
would love to see an endpoint. So if they feel that they can be ready to try this case in 70 days, I would really hope that they would file for that.
What's interesting is, like, why didn't they file it back when they wrote up that paperwork? I mean, I don't really understand the delay, and that makes me question it.
In the oral arguments this morning, there was talk that they had some strategy in mind, and they were contemplating filing it, I believe, did they mention like early November or something?
Yeah, I've gotten the sense, and this may be incorrect, but I've gotten the sense that the prosecution has been ready to go. And so this talk of catching anybody on the back foot, I don't really know what that means. That just sounds like something you say to explain a delay.
I don't even know what a back foot is.
Exactly. I think maybe it's a fencing term, but it's not.
One of the first things I said to you when we reunited after the oral arguments was, "What's a back foot?"
What are they trying to catch him doing? It's one of those things that just sounds like nonsense to me. I think the prosecution's been ready to go. When you're like, if I keep on telling you, like, oh, Kevin, like, okay, I'm almost ready to go out with you. I'm almost ready to go at you. And like, then I'm like, yeah, but I'm going to go downstairs and he's not going to be ready. But you're like waiting in the car. It's like, I'm the problem there. I'm the person delaying it. I can kind of write a little fan fiction about what you're doing in my head, but that doesn't really make it so. And to me, they've provided no evidence that, Nick McClellan's been sitting there like, oh, we got to go now. Oh, geez. That doesn't make any sense. I don't think they're. But again, maybe they will, because that would be the flashy thing to do. That would get
a lot of attention.
And then people would be like, wow, they must really be confident in it. It's like, okay.
And it would also result in a very busy 70 days for us all, because as we mentioned, there's a lot of outstanding business to conduct prior to a trial. I hope the most important thing is for Richard Allen to get competent, effective representation. If they believe they can be ready for a trial 70 days from tomorrow, I hope they file for that, and I hope it's granted. I
agree, because I don't want to see this thing drag out forever. I mean, it already feels like it has. And if they've got it, flaunt it, I mean, just go for it. I mean, they've outlined their entire case with the Odinist thing. I'm sure they held some things back, in fairness, but I mean, we kind of got it. Just go. I would hope they would do that. I just am very skeptical at this point about, promises being made and then not kept.
Also, in fairness, if they decide not to, it's possible that 3 months ago they were in a place where they would have been ready within 70 days, but then being away from it for so long, maybe it takes a little more time to get back up to speed. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe 70 days is unrealistic, but if they don't do it...
Maybe 90 days.
Yeah, if they don't do it within like a short period, then I think then we can just chalk that up to bluster. The one thing that I will say, though, is, I mean, would there be this is going to sound like such a dumb question, but I'm going to ask it. You know, my non-lawyer mind sees kidnapping and murder being added to the charges and sees like, well, that's basically what they were already defending him against because it was felony murder, kidnapping. But will that require additional work being done because they are technically different charges?
It's likely that it might, although according to McClelland, these charges aren't based on anything new. It's based on the same basic information that was in the PCA, according to McClelland. And so if that's the case, then you've already seen the evidence. So if you're going to try to disprove this evidence...
Okay, it's like nothing's new, so there shouldn't be a delay over that necessarily, although I think there...
Again, that's what McClelland is saying. I'm sure that if Baldwin or Rosie or even Scremin and Liberato were here, they would say, no, that's not true. These charges aren't supported by the previous PCA, blah, blah, blah.
Blah, 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 endlessly.
Lawyers like to argue about everything.
Oh, really? Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Are you surprised by this outcome?
I'm not surprised by the outcome. I'm surprised by the speed.
Are you surprised? So you're not surprised that they're bringing them all, they're all staying on?
I'm not surprised by the outcome. I'm surprised by this.
I thought they were coming back and that they were going to get a new judge. That's what I thought was going to happen based on conversations. But, you know, ultimately it's going to be, as we said, what the Indiana Supreme Court thinks is the right thing to do, what they think is going to be defending his rights and be best for the case. So they're saying, we think Judge Gull is the best for the case, her staying on, but we also think that bringing them back is the best for the case and defends his rights.
So interesting day.
So we don't know. We don't know. Did they vote unanimously? Do we know anything like that?
I'll look at the order again. I believe they did.
So they
I will double check because I literally only read this moments before we came here and started talking about it.
Yeah, we literally just ran in here. It was
okay. No, it wasn't unanimous.
Oh, okay.
A majority of the court votes to grant returning Baldwin and Rosie.
Okay.
But it was unanimous to deny everything else. So this also means that not only are we going to get an opinion explaining why this was the right thing to do in the mind of the court, we're also likely to get a dissenting opinion from someone who says, no, it wasn't the right thing, and here's why I believe that.
So that person will be anti-Gull or anti-Baldwin Rosie? Anti-Baldwin Rosie.
Yeah.
So they'll be saying, here's why you should have kept them kicked off.
Yeah.
That's going to sting.
So interesting opinions to read.
Yes.
I think that's about it, right?
Yep.
I will note before we go that we have an episode of the Cheat Sheet coming out tomorrow. in case you haven't heard enough of us today. We say this on the episode. I'm going to say it again. We recorded it yesterday.
And you're going to tell because we're going to sound younger, happier, more carefree. I feel like that meme of Russ Cole smoking where he's just like wide-eyed and smoke. I'm just this whole thing. And to have it all happen in one day. We didn't even get it. I'm glad they did it quickly. I think that was the right call. Good for them for figuring it out. I'm just shocked.
And I think we're going to put out this episode very quickly with minimal editing. So if it sounds a bit rougher,
no sounds effects. It's just we're putting it out and it's just that's it because we just put out an episode being like, wonder what they'll do. So we gotta put this out, guys. Hope you understand.
Well, thank you so much for listening, and you will hear our dispatch from yesterday sometime tomorrow. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to The Murder Sheet. If you have a tip concerning one of the cases we cover, please email us at murdersheet@gmail.com. If you have actionable information about an unsolved crime, please report it to the appropriate authorities.
If you're interested in joining our Patreon, that's available at www.patreon.com/murdersheet. If you want to tip us a bit of money for records requests, You can do so at www.buymeacoffee.com/murdersheet. We very much appreciate any support.
Special thanks to Kevin Tyler Greenlee, who composed the music for the Murder Sheet, and who you can find on the web at kevintg.com.
If you're looking to talk with other listeners about a case we've covered, you can join the Murder Sheet discussion group on Facebook. We mostly focus our time on research and reporting, so we're not on social media much. We do try to check our email account, but we ask for patience as we often receive a lot of messages. Thanks again for listening.